Hi, Mr. Cassucio. My first question for you will be, what made you first want to get into music production?
Okay. And are you taping this? You
Oh,
have
yes,
to.
sir.
Okay, cool. Um, honestly, I realized in high school that I wanted to get into the behind the scenes in music.
Mm.
This is going to date myself, but I really wanted to be Eddie Van Halen. I wanted to be this killer guitarist.
Mm.
And I was a good guitarist, but I realized I wasn't going to be that guy. When I was in high school, I could still be a guitarist and be functioning, but I'm like, maybe I should look at the recording aspects. And I kind of was interested in that because I was a songwriter, so I was playing around with technology back in the mid-'80s. And I was in the high school band, and I started recording all the concerts.
Mm.
So I kind of got into that, and I'm like, wow, I actually like this recording. I can record other people, I can still do my own thing, I can be part of the music industry. And once I realized that, I kind of put all my eggs in one basket and decided to go to Fredonia, and I only applied to like 2 schools, Fredonia being one, and was accepted in their sound recording program and never looked back.
Sweet. As far as recording goes, what is the very first thing one must know about knowing the software, learning the software?
You know what? So let's backtrack here. What is the one thing that you need to know for software? Are you saying like what is the best software to learn, or what's like the first thing you should learn to get into the business?
I would go with the later, the bit to get into the business.
Okay. The number one thing to get in this business, the number one thing that you need to have to know is how to deal with people.
Okay.
If you can be good at the software, but if you're great with people, it's going to take you a lot farther than if you're not so good with people and great at the software.
Gotcha.
This is a business where it's based on a lot of egos, and you need that ego to survive. So I'm not faulting people for having egos. But that being said, when you're getting up in front of a room of people and having to sing, you got to have a thick skin. Sometimes when you have a thick skin, you tend to not listen to other people.
Right.
And being an engineer and a producer is selling your ideas. People are hiring you for your skills, and being able to sell those skills, you have to know how to read people correctly and convey your ideas in a constructive manner.
How long did it take you before you became a good engineer or good at what you do and familiar with it all? Like, how long did it take you to learn it all?
It's interesting. There are 2 answers to that question. The first is I'm always learning. I'm still learning.
Mm.
I'm learning new aspects of the industry. I mean, I'm primarily a mastering engineer, so even after 20 years, I'm still learning about recording and mixing, which are other aspects of mastering. But the other answer to that question is I learned more the first 6 months in the real world than I did at the 4 years of college. I needed that 4 years of college to get me into the real world.
Right.
But after about 6 or 7 months, I was fully functional on a professional level to hold my own in the world of recording and music. I was working on the big studios and doing a lot of cool projects, but it took me about 6 months after college to get my feet wet and the confidence to know what I was doing. But I'll never stop learning.
Gotcha. Do you have your own personal studio?
I do. I have a couple different businesses. I have a mastering business called Extreme Audio Mastering, which I have. I also do jingles, and I'm partner in a company called Extreme Branding, where we've done jingles and production for commercials and advertising agencies. And I'm part of a record label as well.
Wow. What label is it?
It's called Buzz Records. And we've done some things in town and whatnot.
Okay. Now, I've heard you are Grammy nominated. Could you tell me about that?
Sure. Well, to tell you the truth, I guess I'm just very fortunate that I got to work with some good people and some good projects. I think, to me, that's a testament that I know my stuff, I have a good set of ears, but I'm also available to work. And I just had some great producers out of California who pulled me in on some projects. And I've done a lot of projects with these producers, and the result is over a couple of years, we had 3 albums that were nominated, 2 in the classical field, 1 in the classical/blues field. So that's pretty cool. I've just been, I've been lucky to have that. I've also been lucky to work with an artist named Barton who had 5 dance tracks that broke the top 40.
Wow.
And that was, he was just looking for someone to work with, and he felt comfortable and confident in what I was, offering, and that's why he chose to work with me. And we, over a 3 or 4 year period, had really good success. Actually, one of his tracks went to number 9 in the UK. So again, it's just a work ethic, being open-minded and treating people, with respect, and you're open to what they have to offer is what I feel helped me secure these projects.
That goes a lot further.
Yeah.
See. So, just 2 more questions.
Sure.
If I wanted to start my studio, could you tell me like certain things that I would need to start to build my own?
Sure. Well, there are a couple things. You're going to have to understand money and in a budget. You don't need to go out and buy the latest, greatest gear. You just got to get enough stuff to get you going. A lot of people go out, rush out, and they buy all the stuff, and then it doesn't work out, and they have a ton of debt. Get enough stuff, just enough to get your feet wet, and get a couple clients. Even if you have to not charge them a lot of money, you just want to get the experience and get some money coming in the door. Then start to build your pieces of gear, and you can raise your rates.
Gotcha.
You also want to know how to run a business. You have to market yourself. You have to let people know that you're around. How do you do that? So it's very important. And then you have to deliver once you get people in the door.
My final question is, what do you feel like about Buffalo as far as like relying on this city for the clientele, and how does the business here?
Well, I'm very involved in the Buffalo music scene, and I love the Buffalo music scene. It's a great scene, but there are a lot of studios here, so I don't get a lot of my mastering work from Buffalo, which I'm going to try to change. I'm going to really try to go out and make a push to let bands and other studios know. A lot of studios do it in-house, which sometimes it's good, but technically you shouldn't mix and master at the same place, because if there's a problem with their speakers during the mix, you don't have an unbiased ear to call and fix those speakers.
Right.
But a lot of my stuff comes from other people. I was just talking to my students today. There's a rapper who I guess hasn't been around since 2005 named Obi Thrice. I just did a track that he's going to be on, but it's a Canadian client. So with the advent of the internet and able to upload files back and forth, I get a lot of clients outside of Buffalo. So, but still, Buffalo's a great music scene.
All right. That will be all, sir. Thank you very much for this.
No problem.
This did wonders for me.
Great, man. Hey, thank you. I hope the paper works out.
Yes, sir.